You have been watching this door for 11 hours. Green paint. The brass number is missing a screw. A dead bolt and a chain. The man behind it has been a fugitive for 2 years and 4 months. He has been hunted by 3 agencies. None of them found him. You did. At 5 a.m., you are going to knock. This is the story of how you earned the right to knock on that door. Level 1. The applicant. You are 24 years old. You applied to the United States Marshals service. So do thousands of others. The service hires a few hundred. You wait 5 months. The letter says no. Not because you failed anything. Because somebody scored higher. That's the whole explanation. 1 line. You spend a year fixing the gaps. You run until the fitness numbers aren't a question. You finish your degree. You take a sheriff's deputy job to gain experience. You apply again. The second letter says yes. Here is what you are joining. The Marshals Service was created in 1789. George Washington signed to end it into existence himself. It is the oldest federal law enforcement agency in America, older than the FBI by 119 years. Frederick Douglass wore this badge. The deputies who walked 6-year-old Ruby Bridges into school in 1960 through a screaming crowd every single morning. They wore this badge. You don't know most of this yet. You will. Level 2. Academy, Glynco, Georgia. The Federal Law Enforcement Training Center sits in the flat pine country of coastal Georgia. Everyone calls it Glynco. 17.5 weeks. Basic Deputy US Marshal training, firearms, defensive tactics, court security, fugitive operations, law until your eyes blur. Week 6 is the Scenario House. A full-size building with movie set rooms and role players. You enter with a partner. Simulated warrant. Simulated fugitive. You clear the first room. You clear the hallway. A figure steps fast out of the second doorway. Something dark in the raised hand. You fire. The lights come up. The figure is a role player. The dark object is a cordless phone. The scenario file says she was the fugitive's sister. Your instructor is a 22-year veteran named Vance. He has run this scenario 400 times. He doesn't raise his voice. He says, "You shot a woman holding a phone." Out there, that's the end of 2 lives. Hers and yours. He resets the room. Speed is what gets the fugitive. Judgment is what gets you home. You just traded the second one for the first. You run the house again and again. By week 12, you are the one other recruit's watch in the doorway. You graduate. You raise your right hand. You are a Deputy United States Marshal. Level 3, Deputy US Marshal, the courthouse. Here is what nobody tells you about the most storied badge in America. Your first years are spent inside a courthouse. That is the actual job. The Marshal's first duty since 1789. Protect the federal courts. You stand in courtrooms. You move prisoners through underground corridors. You sit 4 feet from men whose names are on the evening news, and you read their body language for 8 hours at a time. The work is 99% stillness. It is the other 1% that the training was for. A sentencing hearing. A defendant who has nothing left to lose hears the number, life, and goes over the table. It lasts 9 seconds, ass. You are on him in 2. Sign seconds out of 2 years. That is courthouse duty. An ocean of boredom guarding a drop of violence. You also fly prisoners. The Justice Prisoner and Alien Transportation System. The largest prisoner transport network on Earth. The movie's called Con Air. There is nothing cinematic about it. It is paperwork with handcuffs at altitude. Your training officer is a senior deputy named Cole. 15 years in. Quite the way Vance was quiet. One night, driving back from a prisoner run, you tell him you didn't join for hallways and airplanes. Cole doesn't look over. He says, "Everybody guards the court. That's the dues. The court is why we exist." Then, after a mile, but stay sharp. Because one day they hand you a warrant instead of a post. And warrants are a different life. Level 4. Warrant operations. They hand you a warrant. Here is the thing that makes the Marshals different from every other agency. The FBI investigates crimes. You don't investigate anything. By the time a file reaches you, the crime is done, the charge is filed, and the man is gone. You hunt people. The Marshals arrest more fugitives than every other federal agency combined. Some years, over 80,000. Cole teaches you the craft the way Vance taught the doorway. How to read a utility bill. How to sit on a house. How to talk to a fugitive's mother on a porch in a way that makes her want to help you. Because half this job is not kicking doors, it's conversations on porches. And Cole gives you the rule. Everybody runs home, he says. They run far for a month, a year. Then the money thins, the girlfriend leaves, and the holidays come. And they drift back to whoever loved them first. You don't chase the man. You watch the people he loves. Your first warrant arrest is nothing like television. A man wanted on a gun charge, asleep on his cousin's couch at 6 a.m., exactly where the pattern said he'd be. He comes without a word. In the car, he asks how you found him. You don't answer. But you think your grandmother's water bill went up in March. Level 5. Senior Deputy, the Fugitive Task Force. You are 31. Senior Deputy US Marshal. You join a regional fugitive task force. Marshals, local detectives, state troopers. One team, one job. The worst cases in the region land on your desk now. Homicide warrants. Escapes. The 15 most wanted, and one file you've carried for 2 years. A man who killed 2 people and evaporated. 3 agencies hunted him. Nothing. The file went cold everywhere except your desk drawer. You work it the way Cole taught you. You don't chase the man. You watch the people he loves. His mother's phone is clean. His brother's truck is clean. For 2 years, everyone he ever loved has been clean. Then his daughter turns 16, and a money order for a used car arrives at her mother's house, purchased at a gas station outside Memphis, 400 miles from anywhere he's ever been. Everybody runs home. Sometimes home is a person. You build it slowly. You watch. You wait. You confirm. 11 hours on a green door with a missing brass screw. At 4:58 a.m., you think about the scenario house. The woman with the phone. Vance's voice. Judgment is what gets you home. At 5, you knock. You announce. The door opens. And the most hunted man in 3 states stands there in a t-shirt, looking at your badge, and his shoulders drop half an inch. And you realize something they never put in the file. He's been waiting 2 years for this knock, too. Running is also a sentence. He turns around before you ask. No shots fired. No one was hurt. A phone call to 2 families before sunrise, telling them it's over. That is what a perfect day looks like in this job. Nobody will ever make a movie about it. Level 6. Inspector. Witness security. You are 35. You move to the program nobody is allowed to talk about. WITSEC. Witness security. Since 1971, the Marshals have protected the people who testify against cartels, mob families, and gangs by erasing them. New name. New town. New history. You are an inspector now. Your job is to take a human being apart and rebuild him somewhere no one will look. Here is the statistic that should be impossible. Of all the witnesses who followed the rules, the program has never lost one. Not one. In over 50 years. Thousands of people with prices. You relocate an accountant who testified against people you are not allowed to name. 60 years old. The first month staring out the window of a house in a state he'd never visited. One day he says to you, "You know what the hardest part is? I was somebody's uncle, 11 nieces and nephews. As far as they know, I'm dead. I have to let them grieve me to keep them safe." You write safety reports. There is no report for that. That is the cost of the program working. It works on the witness too. You learn the dark arithmetic at this level. The witnesses who follow the rules live. And once, only once on your watch, A man doesn't. He calls his old neighborhood on his old phone to hear his brother's voice on his birthday. The program never loses the ones who follow the rules. You carry the other kind with you. Level 7, Supervisory Deputy. You are 39. Supervisory Deputy US Marshal. Here is what a supervisor is. A supervisor is the person who decides which deputies stack up outside which doors, and then stands at the back, where you can't reach them if you're wrong. You used to risk your own judgment. Now you risk it on behalf of 8 other people. You plan the operations. You read the intelligence twice. You scrub every warrant package for the detail that kills people. The dog that isn't in the file, the brother with a record who moved in last month, the camera doorbell nobody mentioned. Cole puts in his retirement papers that spring. 30 years. At his send-off, in a courthouse break room with grocery store cake, he gives no speech. He just taps the star on your chest, the way a man checks a door is locked. He says, "Everybody runs home, including us. Make sure your people get to." You take over his task force chair on a Monday. The file drawer is empty except for one thing, a brass screw. You never asked when he went back for it. You put it in your pocket. It stays there for years. Level 8, Chief Deputy US Marshal. You are 45. Chief Deputy. You run the day-to-day of an entire district. Every courthouse post, every warrant squad, every prisoner movement, every witness in the program who lives quietly inside your district's lines and doesn't know your name. The history of the service stops being trivia at this level and becomes furniture. The painting in the district office is of deputies on horseback. The plaque by the door lists names going back to 1794. Deputies killed serving, process, in places where the federal government was just a man with a star and a piece of paper. More than 200 of them since 1789, the oldest line-of-duty deaths in federal service. You speak at a school in your district every February. You tell them Frederick Douglass held this commission. You show them the photograph of deputies in suits walking a 6-year-old girl named Ruby up the steps of a school in New Orleans every morning through everything America could scream at her. A kid asks you if the Marshals are like the FBI. You say no. The FBI finds out what happened. The Marshals make sure the answer arrives in court alive. The judge, the jury, the witness, and the man in handcuffs. What's job in the country? Somebody has to carry the answer. Level 9, United States Marshal. You are 51. There are thousands of deputy marshals. There are exactly 94 United States Marshals, 1 per federal district, each one appointed by the President of the United States, confirmed by the Senate. The call comes on a Tuesday. The confirmation takes months. Then, one morning, you raise your right hand in a federal courtroom you once stood post-in as a 26-year-old, guarding a door, bored out of your mind, 1% away from everything. The judge administering your oath was a prosecutor then. She remembers you. The star they give you is the same 5-pointed star carried in 1789. The design has barely changed. The job has barely changed. Protect the court. Move the prisoner. Shield the witness. Find the ones who run. You serve your term. You sign the warrants now instead of serving them. You stand at the back of the room at every academy graduation your schedule allows. In your desk drawer, there is a single brass screw. Visitors assume it's a loose part of the furniture. It is the opposite of that. At Glynco, Georgia, the scenario house resets. A recruit enters with a partner. Simulated warrant. She clears the first room. She clears the hallway. A figure steps fast out of the second doorway. Something dark in a raised hand. She holds. 1 full second. An eternity in a doorway. It's a phone. The lights come up. An instructor walks out of the control room. Older. A star on his belt that has been worn smooth by 30 years of holsters and courthouses. And green doors at 5 a.m. He says speed gets the fugitive. Judgment gets you home. The recruit nods. She doesn't know the sentence is older than her career. She doesn't know it will outlive his. She will say it herself one day, in this same hallway, to someone who hasn't been born yet. Everybody runs home. The cycle continues.